Okay, I'd had a few questions about Robby, so I thought I'd try to answer those in this little installment. Some of the questions were about his arm rings, as you can see here. This is an actual arm ring that was removed from the original Robby costume. Basically, if you go back and watch like the Lost in Space episodes, you can see that there are a whole lot more arm rings than you saw in Forbidden Planet, and that's somewhere along the lines they added more. I know, I guess they like the droopy arm look in Lost in Space. But anyway, the arm rings are made out of wood, and they're, if I remember right, I got the tape measure here. They're 8 inches on the outside, so you'd be about 7 on the inside because it's roughly ½ an inch thick, and then you're about 1 inch thick this way. When I made my Robby, this one right here, I didn't want to have to cut all those arm rings out of wood, so I ended up making a silicon rubber mold of the arm ring, and then I cast them in resin. And I wasn't particularly worried about how much weight I was going to add to this Robby, because I wasn't going to be wearing this as a costume. This is a standalone statue Robby, so it didn't really matter weight-wise what it came down to. These days, though, with 3D printing, you could certainly print these arm rings and do it at like 10% infill, and they'd be super lightweight. It'd definitely be a way to go. So let's see, what else did we have? Well, I had someone that was really interested in the colors up in Robby's head, what the proper colors are. Now, lighting, angles on everything, this is all still just gunmetal in there. It looks different simply because of the angle. It's not lighter, it's the same gunmetal that the rest of Robby's covered in. And of course you have your clear plastic parts, which are actually plexiglass, which are lathe turned and then flame polished. And of course up there at the very top you have the wigwag, which are painted white. Your sax valves, which in the original Robby are aluminum. These ones are cast in resin, and then I painted them. Of course, the back of the sax valve, this rest part, is a translucent white because it has to light up when the sax valves move. So you gunmetal everything except for the part that you want to leave white. The bits that look red behind the balls and up in the upper parts that the sax valves are behind, that red in mine, of course, is painted on. It's basically a flat red primer. But in the original Robby, that red is a result of, let's move this stuff out of the way. You see that little twig of red looking stuff sitting there? That's a sample of the ABS plastic that was available back in the 1950s. And it actually had a red color. So the red that you see in the actual Robby is just the ABS plastic that the head was formed on, that the clear pieces were glued over so they couldn't be painted. So it's kind of a little bit of information there that you may or may not have known. Let me tighten this down so I don't have to hold it so much. And there, let's see. So we've talked about the colors, we've talked about the arm rings. Might as well show if I hit the right button. Hard box, and wigwag. So there's the lights up there. It seems like there was something else somebody had asked. Can't remember what it was. Well, let's walk around just a little bit before I shut the cameras down, just in case it comes to mind. I'll do more of a close-up of some of these ones that I did in scale of all the different versions of Robby that can be seen. Of course, that's the Fred Barton Robby version. There's the Uncle Simon version. He's got the cane and the leg support. There's one of the Lost in Space versions where he's holding the deal where the little lion's head's talking to him. Well, I remember what I wanted to talk about. It's over here. Someone was asking questions about Robby's gloves. Okay. I think, let's try to angle this thing down here. These two gloves right here I purchased from Bill Malone, and they are latex rubber, hollow. You can wear them like gloves. They're totally flexible, and they were pulled from the hydrocal molds of Robby the Robot. And he pointed out that one of them somewhere along the line had been resculpted. I believe it's that one, and it's a little bit shorter in stature than this one. Maybe we should try to take the camera off this tripod. Maybe we can get you closer. Hang on. I realize it's jerky, but what the heck, right? And let's get that out of the way. Okay. So we can get down here, maybe we can get the reflections to a minimum, possibly. I don't know. But they're latex rubber, and basically, you know, to make something like this is the same as doing masks. You need to make a master. Usually you would sculpt something like this in clay, and then you make a hydrocal mold, which is like plaster mold of that, usually a two-part mold, so you can separate it. In fact, you can see the mold seam line, which you would clean off more if you were going to use it in a movie, but I didn't particularly care, so I didn't spend a lot of time cleaning the seam line off. You put the molds together, they dump in the latex rubber, they let it set X number of minutes that it forms a film, then you pour all the extra latex back out, you use that again later, and that thin film that's in there then gets baked, and once it's baked you separate your mold and you pull it out and you have your rubber gloves. These other claws were claws that I made up based off of the blueprints. At the very end of Forbidden Planet, when Robby's flying the ship, he has claws like that on. Let's see, I think there were some blueprints around here. Here's one of the different claws. You can kind of see they're showing the pincher claws and how they worked. And there's some drawings for the ear scanner rings and all that good stuff. And this copy's getting kind of dark of Robby's head, but you can find those in that double issue Cinema Fantastique. Better copies of that, including the Heartbox one. It's the blueprints for doing one of the Corel locks, and it's actually called out that they were using part of one of the Jeep windshields as in part of the back reflector in the Corel lock. I went ahead and made one. That's when you first walk into the Robothut. There's one sitting right there that I built up. You know, there were the two versions. There was the one that was symmetrical like that, and then there's the one that has the one straight side and the angled. This one, I believe, is on a motion sensor. Yeah, there we go. And you walk by, and of course, just like in the movie, you can spin the lock and everything's spring-loaded. What else? We talked about the colors. We talked about the gloves. We talked about the arm rings. Let's take a look. Back before there were 3D printers and they had to do like the Heartbox things, all mechanical, that was a lot of work. So when I did the Robby Jeep one, I did just a static version. Just put in blinky bulbs and a steady on there, and then glued the little flappers in place for the one that's on the Jeep. I didn't figure that part moving on the Jeep was probably a good idea, bouncing around and driving around. So it was more static. In fact, the only thing that was motorized on the one in the Jeep were the scanner rings. I didn't motorize the top gyros or the clackers, sax valves, whatever you like to call them, or the wigwag. Just the important stuff, get the scanner rings going and the lights going. But if some of you were going to do like a cosplay thing, or maybe just a display for hanging on your wall, you might not want to go to all the trouble of doing the mechanical version. You might just want to go ahead and put in some static blinking bulbs. You can also just use an electronic flasher for cars. There's some that alternate, like front and rear, and you do that and you could alternate the two sides. I think that bulb is either the blinky's out or it's burned out. I can't remember. I think I might have used the ultimate flasher possibly on this one. Let's take a look. Yeah, there we go. So this isn't mechanical, there's nothing spinning, and you can hear the clicking. Kind of got a wonky bulb there too. But so there's other ways that you can get the effect without going mechanical if you're just trying to go for an effect. Okay, I think that's it. I wanted to make this one short and just cover a few questions that had been asked, and talk to you in the next one.